Hello.
Hello. Does it work?
I'll just...
Yes, it works, right?
There we go.
Hello.
Hello. Hey.
So how is this? Should I close the curtains?
No, it's lovely. Very nice.
Then let's have daylight.
Sorry?
Let's have daylight then.
Yeah, daylight would be nice. We had a very cold, dreary day here, so I can have some sunshine.
Yay.
Bianca, you sound a little more distant today.
I might have turned my volume down. How's that?
Maybe.
And I was talking more quietly. No, still more distant? Let me see what...
It decided that to not use my... Here we go. How's that?
Microphone. Yeah, that's on.
Let me know what the volume's like and I can turn that gain down if I need to. How's that?
I think it's okay.
And then, how's that?
Yeah.
Good.
Cool.
Oh, I just woke up. My sleeping pattern has changed over the last 2 weeks due to my choice to watch the daily press conference in America live. And for me, it starts at midnight and lasts about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I sleep a little late.
Are you gleaning any insights from your...
I noticed that what I hear said during the press conference is something totally different than what I read in the newspapers the next day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I heard Donald Trump in a little excerpt that I didn't see in any of the newspapers anywhere, saying that we should be looking at using light in healing.
Yeah.
And I was like, thought that was very, very interesting. Yeah.
He said that after one of the experts of, I can't remember which laboratory it was. It's a high-tech research, and they have been looking at the survival rate of the virus outside of bodies. So things like doorknobs and your hands, and how long does it stay alive? And it's a hard word for me to say. Preliminary results seem to point out that moisture or humidity and temperature and UV light kill the virus kind of fast. And one thing that could point at is for us to be outside, to just soak in the sun's rays, which is, for me, seems kind of logic in the way nature works. And he said the researchers said that they have been looking at strong UV lamps. And like with the skin condition, psoriasis, that seems to have a light therapy has good results. And they were looking into something similar to that. And the president found that very interesting. And he had also read some research about things like hydroxyperoxide and isopropyl alcohol. Wow, I'm getting good with the big words. The president has read some information about those things could work in certain circumstances. And in the press conference, he spoke about it to the doctors, and asked them to give him more information. And it sounds interesting. We should look into that.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. There
It
was
is.
some very left of field suggestions that had been presented to him, and he was really open in exploring them. And I was like, oh, that's, anyway, it gave me a lot of, it shifted some things in my thinking a little bit in terms of the potential and the possibilities with where this whole situation can shift us.
Yeah, it shows me, well, the person might not be sympathetic the way we get, in the way he's getting portrayed. And you can like him or not, but I think everybody can agree that this is not a dumb guy.
No, he's very good at manifesting whatever he wants.
Yeah, well, he's smart, he's a businessman, and I think he's been trying to run the government more like a business. And of course, people like it and some people don't. But this man is not a dumb person. If he says something, he does his homework, he does his research. And
he also loves baiting people.
Yeah, and I
He
think
loves it. He gets such a buzz out of baiting people and just watching them go on a little spin and get distracted and run off. And then
Yeah,
he goes and does what he wants to do.
I perceived that as well. And ask me personally, I think this was a brilliant move.
What was, sorry?
This was a brilliant move. Like in the press conference, live on national TV, sort of kind of cornering the doctors in your task force team to look at those things. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was, there's not too many things that I could have said I was grateful for in his actions so far that I know of in terms of my surface level reading of the situation. But when I saw that, I was like, oh wow, that this is a game changer. Yeah.
Well, if you can have the time and the interest in it, I suggest you look more into it. Dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
I did it for only 2 weeks now, so I'm not even the subsurface yet.
Yeah.
And my perception is changing. But that's just me.
Yeah, it's interesting. There seems like there's lots of people's perceptions of the world changing at the moment. And people that you least expect might come out with things that might actually be the catalyst for change that we have been looking for and hoping for a really long time, and it really might come out of spaces that we don't expect.
Yeah, well, I did a course once, and one of the things that we were taught in that course was to look at everything as the opposite of what it seems to be, which was a mindfuck for me and still is. And the recent information I have personally found are opposite of what I thought the truth was. And so what is true, I don't know. I never was the most wise person on earth anyway. But I've been shaky for a few weeks. Like my foundation has been shaken up.
I saw a brilliant little picture on the internet in the last week or so, and it was a little meme on truth, and there was a prismatic shape in the middle and light shining onto it, and it was projecting a circle in one direction a triangle in another direction and a cube or a dime, can't remember, I think it was a cube in the opposite direction, and it was like, this is true, this is true, this is true, and the thing in the middle is truth. It's like, so we can see what appears to be true for the projections, all the projections are true, but it's like, what is that? It's, and we can get real, sometimes we think that the and I know that I can often fall into that. It's like that projection that we see, we know it's true, we know it is true, but is it truth? Well, it's only a small part of the truth. And I know that I've written in my diary many a time to myself, it's like part truths are really dangerous. They're the most dangerous thing, because people eat them up like they're the whole truth, and they are really distracting or confusing, or like it leads us to let go of searching for that whole bigger picture or understanding it and bringing it in. Yeah.
Well, that is what happened for me the last few weeks by learning this new to me information and seeing, well, some things are at least plausible, or subjects I never really seriously thought about anything. And now more and more my question is, where am I in all this? Like, learning new information and finding out I was wrong all the time. Okay, that might be a bummer or not. And maybe my new truth is more appealing to me than the old one was, which comes back to my opinion and my, from which angle I look at it, like the number 9. If you want to put one person on this side and the other one on that side, the one sees 6 and the one sees 9, and they are both right from their perspective. So yeah, I'm looking inside, like, where am I in all of this? Am I willing to change or totally flip my opinion, and how does it affect my life? And if it's true that consciousness or choice creates realities, what reality would I like to live in?
Yeah.
And am I willing to play with that? Like, is it true that choice creates reality? Partly, yes. If I choose cauliflower for dinner in the shop, then I won't have spinach tonight. Which is a choice and a consequence, which is futile and irrelevant and totally non-important. And for the bigger things, what have I chosen? What would I like to choose? And what if my choice indeed creates a reality for the entire planet on some level? What would I like to choose for me? And maybe it's a bigger choice than spinach and cauliflower. How does my choice impact the world? And knowing that, would knowing the impact my choice has on the world change my choice? Which brings me back to, who am I? Where am I in all of this?
Yeah, it's like that. Where is it? So I was doodling yesterday. It's like a whole lot of codes, and then new earth energy. What is my role in bringing this in? It's like, what?
And what do you like it to be?
Yeah.
And that could be something totally different than what Kim is dreaming about.
Yeah, or what my children are dreaming about, which seems to be the thing at the moment. It's like every time I sit down, I feel like I've got this work, I'm like in this quandary, because every time I sit down to do this work, disaster ensues. Like my littlest will destroy my favorite thing, or last night I was finally sat down and my daughter was so tired. She'd been on a 3-hour bike ride and she sat down and she's like, I just need mommy time. I'm like, you need to go to sleep. You're exhausted. And she was just a basket case for the next hour. I just need mommy time. I'm like, I'm right here with you. And I'm like, okay, so we won't be doing that again tonight. And I'm like, so is this a message that I'm not meant to be doing this? Or is it a message that it's really worthwhile and that I need to work through these hurdles to get it done, that something's trying to stop me, so it's actually really important? Or am I just anthropomorphizing everything and it's just what it is? Yeah, the joys of trying to, it's like the second I take my attention, at the moment, the second I take my attention off my children into millisecond, it's like they just, it's like they're like their radars like, oh,
So they do make the most of their time off school.
oh yeah. 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 Yeah, we've been having the no school has been wonderful actually for me, getting to the bottom of lots of learning resistance that my daughter has. So that's been really good. I don't think that we would have actually really got to the bottom of it had we not had this time. So I've been thinking of all the things that I've been calling in and all the things that have been, like all the boxes that have been ticked off by the current scenario that we're in. And I'm like, oh, you know, they do say be careful what you wish for. It's like your thing, you're maybe answered in ways that you are Miller's been like, I want to be homeschooled. I want to be like, she's pretty good at manifesting. I'm like, I'm sure you didn't quite create this whole thing on your own, but it's interesting how many boxes of so many people I know, their wish list is being ticked off a lot. Yeah, in our current situation. So yeah.
How's that with teenagers, Kim?
Well, we're about to start our next term of school now, go back to online learning, and I'll be going back to probably 4 days a week of work. So we've all had a pretty nice time not having any commitments, living pretty free. You know, the girls have been enjoying staying up later, and I'm feeling a little bit more grown up because of that, and negotiating that with my husband and I. That's been good family conversations we've had. So it's been quite nice, just to be more relaxed, and I'm feeling a little tense about how this week's going to go, in terms of work for me, I suppose, but also how to hold on to or maintain that sense of authenticity and myself through and my connection through my working week, and you know, and all the roles that I and also, you know, so this opportunity for change, and how do I bring that into all the things that I do, and what do I want those changes to look like, and that kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see.
I liked watching change in your energy from the start of that sentence, like that little spiel to the end, Kim. That was very nice.
Yes. Well, I got to the point eventually, I think.
Well, it was interesting. It was
Got
just
to the core, right?
yeah, and I think that you started speaking, and you could see that anxiety about this week, and then even through that little short bit of speaking it out, so much of that just dissipated, and you're like, oh, this is how I want to be. That was really awesome. Yay.
Yeah. Mm. So how to keep the space whilst being busy? That space of what is that, and holding on to that vision, I guess, or that sense. Hmm. Hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I think that would be very nice for everyone to be able to figure that out.
There's a lot of figuring out going on, isn't there?
Mm.
A lot of figuring out of all sorts of things for people.
Yeah. Well, we've been asked to sort of let go of lots of stuff, pick up a whole lot of different stuff too, but also in that, like, work out where our priorities are. What is it that's important to us, which I think has been really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it will be really, really interesting to see the ramifications of that happening on a global level. Like, what happens when the whole world has to reassess their priorities and what they actually find important or valuable in their life.
I just had a little image of all these lights starting to turn on around the world as people's seeds of love and joy from their hearts started blossoming or something. You know? All these lights switching on.
Yay. That's awesome. So the question that I hear coming forward for that is, so how do we provide a space to hold that for people? Like, as those lights come on, how do we allow or make space? Like, how can we, I as an individual, or we as a group, or we as a larger, make space for all those lights, those switching on, for people to come together and to share that in ways that guess I'm thinking into the spaces where people who are switching on and coming in, where that's new for them, and they may or may not be in a space where that feels normal or acceptable or okay. Going back to what we discussed on that first session, is like, is there anything that we can do? There may or may not be anything that needs to be done. It may just be happening. But is there something that we can do to support or to reach out, to encourage those lights to join up with those other lights?
I think what we are doing now is part of that.
Yeah.
And even before we started to record and broadcast or make them available, Bianca and I have been doing this since the beginning of this year, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
And so many of these moments of silence and dreaming and sensing into what it could be, I think we are holding space already.
Yeah.
And next to that, is it only us?
Well,
Mm.
so I've started to invite my guides back in after having 4 weeks of no contact outside of me. And I worked yesterday for the first time in about 4 or 5 weeks. And it was really interesting to feel there was guides that I work with that I'd never even recognized their presence. There was guides that I actively work with, but there were other guides. There was another guy. I'm like, oh, hi. I've been working with you for 15 years, but it was just, the presence was so common that I hadn't noticed it before. But because I'd made this strict, like, no, this is just me, I could feel him come in, and that was really interesting. And I had known that there was a request to do this group, this discussion, this put out, this call for this connection, and that it was coming from at least one of my guides, that there was this push. So I connected, reached out to the guides that were asking for this. And at first there was one, and then there were hundreds. So it was just this like this crowd, this gaggle of excited, but it's like, yes, we want it. It's just, it was really lovely. But it was like I had it's like I had amalgamated all of those individual beings and individual consciousnesses into an overall descriptor before, because I didn't have as much clarity around the individual beings as they were talking to me, if they'd been present in my vibration for a long time, because they'd just become normal. So it's been really nice, really interesting. But yeah, there's definitely a big call out for that space, for that connection.
Yeah. As you spoke about it, my house is filled now with energies and beings that want to join the party. And once again, our human and our technical ways of connecting around the globe is helpful.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Before, Eliza, your the background noise to your thing was silent, and when you were talking then it was just like yes, there was a lot of extra communication coming in.
Yeah. It's interesting. Even if we would step out now and leave the Zoom running, all those beings would have their party on their own anyway.
No, they're all chattering away. It's like really noisy.
We're dismissed now.
I've got a plant that wants to join in.
Oh yes, it does.
Up there, okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. I didn't notice your muse, Eliza, until I looked at the video on playback, because I was too busy looking at you last time. But then on the playback, I'm like, oh, hello, and you're very ever so present.
Yeah. I moved her And before, she always takes part in our conversations, but she was behind the camera. And when I switched to this setup, so I don't have to clean the mess out there. And also because the sunlight is coming in from this direction, and if I sit in the other spot, the sunlight hits my face directly and you only see a white blob. So that's why I'm here. And she insisted to move, and she wanted to actively participate and be in frame. So now every time when I go upstairs, I have to move her, but she insists being there and enjoying the sunlight as well. Have you seen her, Kim?
No. I'm
Okay.
trying to see. What is she?
Close up.
Hello.
She started off as a styrofoam head,
Yes.
and I painted it. And I painted her a white, fleshy color,
Yeah.
and there was no life. And then I gave her some leaves.
Yeah.
Those are the cheapy artificial leaves. And I covered her with that, and this is also plastic. And then she wanted to be camouflage colors. You can see there's many colors in it. And she wanted to kind of look like a cat.
Yeah.
This is it so far, and the birdie was already in my house, and it decided to live up here as a hairdresser.
It's great.
And as soon as I brought her home, I made her an art class. And I set her on the table, and she came alive immediately.
Mm.
And she was really intense at first, like almost painful, until her sister was born a few weeks later. And this is the swan lady.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment I brought her in, the other one, there was this equalizing.
Like a balance.
Yeah.
Mm.
And now they're quieter,
Yeah.
still very intensely present. And they scream at me when I'm cooking. Like, I need to add some herbs, or I have to cook things in a different way, or
like their head chef, and you're their second chef.
Does this work? Yeah, it works.
Oh,
She's got an empty wine bottle for now.
Have they got names?
Yeah, the green one's name is Kyria. And it is a Greek name. I looked it up, but I forgot, and it is very suitable for her. And the lighter one, the swan lady, her name starts with an A, and I haven't found out yet.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
I'm sure it will be as appropriate, and I'll find another bottle for her, or at least remove the sticker.
She's got red wine lips, hasn't she? Deep red lips. Mm.
Yeah, they both insisted on that. Even the camouflage colors, she wanted to have visible lips. And she's kind of like which is a very interesting experience to put a color like that on styrofoam and have it stay put.
Wow.
But we managed. So what is this plant for you, Kim?
Um,
And thanks to the plant for joining us. I like it.
well, I was just I was looking at things, at your backgrounds, and then looking at my plants, and I've got another couple there, but yeah, it just felt like it would like to join in, as we were talking about, in a visible sense. Into one of my many pot plants. Yeah.
I was being reminded, Eliza, that of the conversation, one of the early conversations we had where we were connecting, but our plants were also connecting. So it's like, yes, it does want to be in the line of sight, so to speak. It was really interesting just watching the plants go, oh, so you can see into these other spaces. Yeah, I want some of that. That's kind of cool. And linking up those, making those connections.
Like my bonsai tree.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
And Kim maybe doesn't know. Where I normally sit, my bonsai tree can see my screen.
Yeah.
And since we are in personal conversations with the Earth group, many photos of trees come by, and those are outside trees, and my bonsai refers to them as the big trees, and he wants to see the big trees. And then preferably the really big ones and the old ones, the wise one, he says. And so there's oftentimes when I go do other things or simply make a coffee or go to the toilet or whatever, I have to pull up a big tree before I walk off so they can see each other or talk to each other or whatever it is in the tree world.
I love that.
So yes, what is possible in frequencies that our eyes and ears cannot, or the frequencies beyond what our eyes and ears can pick up on. There seems to be so much more, and even more lately, or maybe I'm just getting aware of more things that have always been. Is again that it is what it is, or is it not?
You would have heard me talk before about sensory gating, Kim.
Yes.
And how in order to survive when we're young, we define for ourselves what band of experience we want to perceive on a regular basis, and we train ourselves out of a huge amount of sensory input so that we're not distracted all the time. And so much of that relearning is to recognize that we have this much wider spectrum of perception that we're having all the time, and to start to redefine what it is that we want to be aware of, although that can cause trouble. I'd been playing around with my sensory gating and I'd got it really wide, and then I was aware of all of my peristalsis, and every time I ate I would nearly want to throw up because I could feel my food go all the way down into my stomach, and I'd switch on and become aware of it, and I'd swallow it and I'd go, oh no, and then I'm like, oh no, I have to feel it all the way down, and I'm like, stop, turn it off. I managed to get that under control, but it was really eye-opening as to why and how useful sensory gauging is, because it's an incredibly disturbing thing to be able to feel all the way down into your stomach with and not be able to switch those sensations off. So yes, as with all of my extracurricular work, I practice on being able to open wide those gates and to close them again when desired, or to be more selective. Or perhaps we could working on other ways with which to balance and harmonize with all of those. I'm sure that opening and closing is a very unsophisticated way of doing that. It's just the way that I cope at the moment. It was the way that allowed me to be able to handle being able to take on all of someone's vibration at one point or not, and not just be open to all of those things. But I feel like it would be much more beneficial to have other parts of our consciousness that are not actively engaged working for us in a more sophisticated way to help us open and close different aspects of our sensory gating all the time. So we're not actually open to everything all the time, but we don't actually have to consciously go, I want to open to this, I want to close to this, I want to open to this, I want to close to this. So yeah.
And learning that it is possible, and learning how to control or flip a switch by choice. It's like, perhaps it's like riding a bike or learning how to walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which also brings me to where we started this conversation, the possibility of UV light changing illness inside the body. I've been playing with that concept years ago when I started to get more in tune of healing capacities and how that works. And for me, it was game. And I had an ache in my body. And I wanted to see if I could do some healing with just the mindset and the meditation and nothing else. And I see one of my hairs is catching the light and being an antenna. It's probably a less blonde one. The silver ones seem to be more shiny.
Oh, tend to like.
Yeah. But anyway, I was looking at healing and what can I do with meditation. And I am a little crazy, so I invented in my imagination a little mini-me, kind of a Super Mario. And it could be as big or as small as necessary to travel somewhere in my body. So it could be a little bigger when it travels in the bloodstream to get where it needs to be. Before I went, I can just put it where I want it. But it was fun for me to travel around the bloodstream. And it worked. It was a lot of fun to play with. And it needs to shrink a little more if I try to adjust something in the nervous system. And what if we could just imagine a little molecule of UV light?
Yeah, I was like, so that, yes, UV.
Do what the president suggested in that way. I'm going to play with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so that UV light linking to that spiritual light, which also then feeds on to how plants are so amazing because they turn light into stuff.
Better.
And so,
out of thin air.
Yeah. Pretty magical. So that plant light has, and that relationship with plants in actually helping us to understand light more. It's like they are the supreme light teachers. So I wonder if we can ask them collectively to share some more of their wisdom about how to use light.
I had a meditation, was it this week or last week? Doesn't matter. And I've seen some images on TV about very crowded hospitals with lots of patients. And I had a ding, 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 ding moment. And what if I could speak to the collective of medicinal plants around the globe? And I don't need to know where they are or what their respective properties are. The collective of medicine plants. And I asked, could it be possible that a collective of medicine plants can somehow communicate with those inside medical facilities? So the collective of patients, may it be a broken ankle or cataract or whatever, and let the plants and the bodies sort it out for themselves. And I got a little dizzy.
Mm.
And so where is it my cute little fantasy? Or is it something else? And what if?
Mm. Well, it was after teaching the plant spirit attunement course that I did that I really stopped prescribing herbs as a herbalist. I very, very, very rarely prescribe physical herbs as a herbalist anymore. And most of the time, all I will do is bring a particular herb into my awareness whilst talking to somebody. I don't do anything further than that. I don't even tell the person that I've brought the herb into my consciousness most of the time. Sometimes I do. And a lot of the time, that's well and truly enough.
It's sort of similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that makes two.
Yeah.
On totally different parts of Earth. And we both didn't know from each other that we've been playing along those lines. Interesting.
Mm.
And again, like what you said earlier about turning off your filters. That's not just us playing with our filters and being curious. Like, what happens if I turn this filter up? And what happens if I close down this filter? And, oh, that wasn't fun. Close, stop. I think we all have those filters. Like in the real world, with less traffic, thus less noise, I'm like, oh yes, the silence. And my neighbor, my landlady, who lives in the same building, I was like, oh, it's so silent. I don't think the noise is much different, being in the same building. And the perception and the reaction is so different to the same level of noise. So we all have filters. what could change if people chose to play with their filters, just with their filters.
It's very little changes, isn't it? Very little, very little changes within us can make such massive, massive changes. It makes me think about the role that all of the sensitive children have to play in ushering in this new earth with their problems with their sensory gating. And how, you know, we often will define a gift as a hindrance until we learn how to use it.
Mm-hmm. And the way adults translate that into demanding children. They won't leave me alone. They want all of mommy. Who said that a short while ago?
No. Any children like that?
So, Bianca, do you keep a record of that, of your conversations with your kids?
Not recently, no. I would probably be a very, very, very wise woman if I kept a journal each day of my conversations with my children. Perhaps that's something I should start to do, because I'm sure there's been so much wisdom that's been shared that has been lost in the heat of the moment. And that's only the ones that I'm conscious of.
Yeah. And what if there is such a lot more than what's going on in other families that your notes could seem like a Bible for many others? For example, what you told about sensing your food go down all the way, for me that's new information. Now it's a choice for me to play with that particular part or not.
Or not.
Or not. And what else can we play with?
Yeah.
And thank you for your remark about that. That had not occurred in my awareness up till now. And I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's so much how we go through life is how, like, you know, we eat something, we chew it, and then we swallow it, and we just drop all awareness of it. It's just like, but that we do life in these little bits where we do it, and then we just drop all conscious awareness of it and leave it up to. But we do that externally as well. So what are we leaving these things up to? What happens to our, because we haven't actually lost contact with it or awareness of it. We just lost that conscious awareness of it.
So your question is, what else can we reclaim in consciousness, in
Yeah.
conscious awareness?
Yeah.
Or at least reclaim temporarily, look at it and choose.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is that? What would be the impact of following something with conscious awareness from one point to another point? I'm thinking more externally. Or if we're not going to follow it with our conscious awareness, who or what are we entrusting to journey with that to that end point? And how would becoming more aware of the different influences on those things that we set out on their journeys, how would that be impacted if we knew, or we could be more conscious in the energies that are following it along?
And would we become more aware of interference?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then choose again to have the interference.
Yeah.
Or
It's like this
redirect.
positive and negative interview, and we trust that it's positive, but I just, as you said that, I could just see this, like this little package of something that you've sent out into the universe, and then this little interceptor just comes in and I'll just take that off that conveyor belt and I'll just toss that over there, and you're waiting for it to come along and pop out and have its change affected, but nothing ever happens, and you're left wondering and like, oh, but it's because you lost that consciousness, and then something else just went, oh, I'll just yoink that out of that.
Yeah. At the end of March, I bought something in Australia, and I got the message that the track and trace code and the parcel still has not arrived. And according to the track and trace, it is still in Brisbane Airport, which is, I don't know, the package was sent out on March 23. So right in the middle of lockdowns and all the shit going on. So exactly what you said, the parcel has been sent out and it's been expected some other place, and probably in the most literal sense has been taken off the conveyor belt. And does that mean it doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, well, when I saw it, someone just yanked something off the conveyor belt and just tossed it over into a rubbish pile. Just like, oh, we'll just get rid of that. We'll just discard that from.
Like UV light in a medical procedure. I don't want that.
Well, it was really calculating. It was real, like what I saw was quite just like.
Well,
you know how you get people that get so unbalanced, they get really prying and meddling, and they like nothing better to watch on other people's business. Well, what I saw then when you said that was the spiritual equivalent of that, but with malice or with some sort of malevolence, so that they're like, oh, we're just going to stop it. So you send out this positive intention into the future, and because we don't have the ability to follow that through to that future goal, there is the possibility for that to just be plucked out of wherever it's traveling to by these beings that are so misguided that they've got nothing better to do than just fuck shit up. And if you think about it, it's like, well,
And by our choice to open up our filters, and I know you use a different word for it, but I didn't remember. The moment we choose to be aware of interference, whatever way it shows up, can we then choose to redirect the trajectory of what we send out?
Yes, like if we follow it, it's like if you follow it with your consciousness, it's like it has this protective, it's like your energy is there guarding it. And these beings, they're not very powerful. Like they're not going to risk having an interaction with you to knock your thing off the conveyor belt. They're only going to do it when no one's watching. Where did it go? I had something that linked to something else and I was like, oh, and it's just like got plucked from my brain again, just like that.
Interference.
Yeah.
So,
like,
and so what if, just imagining that they are things, or maybe like what I've seen in the factory, there's a robot with visual sensors that picks the ones out that are not as beautiful as they should be.
Yeah.
And having that in mind, if there are angels flying around and some with other intentions or other jobs,
yeah,
could we send them a message?
yes.
Or ask them to enter their next level of consciousness?
Yes, that's exactly what I saw when that vision was first like coming through. It's like we either follow it with our consciousness or we direct who we would like to travel with it. Don't send it out there into the willy-nilly to be like engaged with whoever gets, like, I want to say the roll of the dice, but it's like there's no, might get through, it might not. Yes.
Oh. Well, a yarn like this is usually my body sensing a shift.
Mm. Yeah, so just like putting a request out. So put a vision out, just ask one of your guides to travel with it. Whoever's free, travel with it, because I can't go there now.
Oh, some jumping up and down going on here. I'll go. Another hour of magic.
Yeah. That was lovely. That was lots of fun. I was like, oh, I can't wait to have a play with that, to send things out with guides and chaperones.
and a sign
Courage.
of
Spiritual courage.
You have choice.
Yeah.
Something outside my window is very unhappy now. It feels like busted.
Every time you've been sending things out your window, it's just been collecting them, has it?
Not all, but yes.
No, not every time.
Oh, that's interesting. I developed the habit of going outside for about 15 minutes before bed. And since there's less traffic, there's less clouds in my area, and it seems like the sky is more intense and more blue, and the sun is more radiant and present. And even at night, I see more stars now. And well, I'm in a rural area, so I have a lot of sky surface to watch, as opposed to being in a city with lots of lights. And lately it seems there are more stars, or I see at least more of them. And some of them feel different. And I don't have another better word than a star, or maybe a light in the sky. And it's not, and I can't put my finger on it. And it's moving, or I need to have my eyes checked, whichever way. The things are going, and I never noticed before that stars can do that. And I wonder, could an airplane do that? And so, what's my fantasy? What do I really see? And where are my eyes messing me up, or my brain is messing me up? And or could there be things that have always been that I never was aware of before? It's something totally new. Makes me go out during the nights even more now.
Yeah, well, if you're staying up until after the session, parliamentary, whatever it's called in America, the sitting, the cabinet.
Then it's well into the night and way, way dark and quiet and silent.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's something, no, it's not like I really need to wind down, but from a press conference to sleep, then it needs about 10 minutes. And yes, it's nice to be outside then. And I notice now, since I have noticed this moving star, I'm going out to prove to myself that it's not. And who am I fooling? Even into noticing the last few nights that it's not only that one, there are more, there's several. In what I seem to see, or think I see, or fantasize I see. Like what we started with, I don't know what's true anymore.
Yeah. It's I think it's it's a really important place to be, but how do you maintain your center when you're letting go of what you believe to be true? Because I think that's where a really strong plant guide can really help. And that's where plant guides have always stepped in. Whether or not you're talking about plant guides for people taking psychoactive drugs early on in our history as shamanic practitioners going in, they always worked with the plant guides to help them maintain their balance whilst everything is shifting. Like, as if we let go of all that we believe is true when we start messing with our reality, it can be very easy to suddenly not know which way is up. And that's a dangerous place to be in.
I was there a few weeks ago. And having learned what I have learned up until now, I could catch it and notice it. And I also knew that processing the information that I got in that moment, it was totally okay to be off center. And I also knew that this too shall pass, like everything. But I also knew, I knew it wouldn't. I would not let loose of my anchor. And the sea was bumpy at at that moment. And I even questioned things like, what is sanity and what is insanity? And who am I and where am I and who am I to want to change things? And what I have believed up till now is true or not, or subject to change. But I knew that one molecule that connected me to Earth would be unshattered and undisturbed. So it's like being at sea, riding out the storm, and the waves will eventually slow down.
And what you can bring back from those experiences are so transformative, not just for you, but for thousands of people potentially. Stepping dimensions is what makes me feel like my grips on sanity are slipping. I haven't done it for a while, but that always does make me like, no.
Interesting times we live in.
Yeah, where we can recognize, I think it's important to recognize that. I loved what you said about the anchor, and I think that's the only difference between actually traversing those places and becoming insane, whether or like falling over the edge into that is letting loose your anchor, or letting loose of that precipice that you walk along when you're traversing those worlds. Like I think it's really important that we've touched on it at the end of this, because all of these things are amazing and beautiful and exciting and world changing and can give us so many riches, but they do require an element of being able to hold that anchor, or stay balanced on whatever it is that holds you to your essence, your core, or so to the people listening out, that it's not so much a message for us, but for the others that wish to take that journey, whatever it is, you need that core planted, that anchor rooted, or that tree that's going to stand with you, that's something that's going to keep you tethered to something familiar that you can come back to with which to process all of that, because you can't process any of that if you're not tethered, and that's the other side of sanity, let's say. Wow.
And what was next for me was like, you're always thinking so much and you're always being curious and look outside and what's behind the next corner, and look what you got yourself into now. This is not a time to go insane or induce whatever. Just I I sounded like my mom. Just do normal and stay inside your box. Wash the dishes and don't think about anything else. You're choosing the difficult way. Or am I? But in that moment, yes, I could hear myself think things like that. And I did return to washing dishes and the home stuff in the physical world to reattach the anchor and have some rest. And then I did it all again over. Next phase. And I can't explain why, but it seems like I need to do this now
Yeah.
in preparation of what comes next.
Got that sensation in my mouth. I'm like, I've been aching to bungee jump into that world. Like this last week, I'm like, my children like, no, and I'm like, don't let me stop you though. I just had to share that. Oh, I got myself I decided after last week I needed a talking stick. So I went out and I found myself a stick. Look at my talking stick. It's a very good talking stick. So I'm passing the talking stick to you, Eliza. Please.
Thank you very much.
I need a holder. I'll just poke it here like this. Balance it back up. So you were saying that you needed to do it for preparation.
Yeah. And I can't explain why in words. And I've got the awareness, well, things are changing in the world a lot and fast. And I have a sense that more things will change, more than a lot and faster, which might knock some people off their socks. Experience the same or a similar kind of, am I going insane, or, and me having done the preparation now, seems like I need to be some kind of an anchor or a still point in the turmoil that seems to be coming.
Yeah.
I can't explain.
Yeah.
And it has to be. I can't not.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I feel you. Yeah.
But please don't ask me what's coming, because I don't have a clue. Interesting though is I bought long distance walking shoes and I bought an oven.
Oh, it's interesting, the shoes. The trees were really confused me the other day. They say to me, all the trees in my backyard, they're like, prepare. All of humanity needs to prepare to go on a long walk. And I'm like, what the? Like, pack up, like nomad. Like, it was like, I'm like, really? It was like, pack up. You need, like, pack. It was like telling me that I needed to pack up my house and prepare to go on a long walk. And I'm like, really? That
No.
really so.
That's interesting. my mind had decided that I had to sift through my closet. Like there's some extra parts of Eliza nowadays that weren't there before. So there is clothing that has no use at the moment. And where my mind thought that I would throw them out or donate them to some kind of charity, my awareness said no, wash and pack them up or put them back in the closet. You'll need them someday. And maybe not necessarily for me, but still. And like with the shoes, also a kind of tidying up project that is halfway. Okay, I have flip-flops, I have this, I have heels, and I was so sure I needed at least one pair of shoes that will allow me to walk long distance. At least to the nearest grocery store, which is 5 kilometers away from here.
Yeah, I was like,
I bought shoes that can do that. And my mind cannot explain why. But I'm planning to go on walks more anyway. And why the oven?
oh, that was to bake apple pie, of course.
Yeah, of course. And what else? What else?
Mm-mm.
And it was so strong, it had been nagging me for a week. Buy the thing, buy the thing, buy the thing. So I bought it. It's still in the box.
Yeah.
And I sure hope my awareness is way off.
Yeah, well, I had just left that weird communication from the trees and hadn't thought about it. That must have been about 2 weeks ago. I hadn't thought about it until you said about you bought walking shoes, and I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah. I was like,
And it's interesting, since we consider ourselves experienced with intuition. We know what awareness can be, or we think we know. And I am constantly reminded how easy I dismiss my awarenesses.
Yeah, if they're not convenient
Or
exciting. Quite, was quite happy.
Or pointing into a direction we don't want to go.
Yeah, if they point
Like
to a direction.
5 kilometers for groceries. Yeah. No, I don't want to do that. And if there came a point where you had to do that, would you be happy to have walking shoes? I don't think it would be fun to walk 5 kilometers for groceries and 5 back in high heels.
No, I'm like, but my organic farm, I can't walk to my organic farm where I get my veggies from. I can walk to the supermarket. It's only 1 kilometer.
Yeah.
And still, I used to do it all the time, but
we get lazy, don't we? Which is also interesting. Like, we now all notice there's less clouds, the sky is bluer, there's more sunshine. You see, or as a collective, we see the impact of less traffic on
my house is blissful.
nature. And yes, people want to go back to normal. And how many or how few of us include back to normal to doing everything by car and airplane?
Mm.
Mm.
I'm struggling with that one. Not so much the airplane, but I would hate to get rid of my car. Or convenience of traveling by car.
It was really funny. We haven't been driving really very many places or at all. My husband's been going out shopping once a week. I haven't gone. But yesterday we went to the mushroom farm, which is 10 minutes on one side of our town, and to our organic farm, which is a 10-minute drive on the other side. So we drove. I was car sick. I got a headache and I got car sick. And everyone was complaining about feeling sick, and that we just had got so unused of traveling at speed. It was really interesting. It's like we all got out and went, "Oh, that was horrible." It's like, wow, how interesting! How quickly we become used to things, and it's really interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, I got car sick from driving for 10 minutes and a migraine after driving for 20. I did come good after I got out of the car, but yeah, it was funny. I was like,
So let's pretend we do have the capacity to turn into little Marios. What if we could run around and ask every single person who has lived up till now in the world of cars and airplanes to get car sick on the first drive, so they get to experience firsthand what they so much want to go back to, or reconsider buying walking shoes and go to the grocery store on foot. It's one of the things I've been wondering about, like after lockdown, what choices are people going to make?
This is like drive to the grocery store and then go to the gym. Exercise.
Like having an app on a smartphone to close the curtains. Which defies logic for me. But in general, this is the greatest time to re-evaluate our values, what's really important. And I know I'm doing that for me, and I know I find some things that modern society I would not want to part with, like the ability to travel by car at will, at choice, whenever.
Or to be able to talk to our friends on the other side of the globe.
Yes. And simultaneously, I would like, I noticed my 3 priorities, if I had to choose the new world, would be clean air, clean water, clean food, clean soil. And if I continue to choose to go grocery shopping by car, what's the word in English? It doesn't match.
Contradiction. Is that the word?
Contradiction. Well, it's like the grating of the gears, isn't it? Just doesn't mash. I'm amazed that you can go shopping once a week, and that how much time you save to go shopping once a week. Wow, it's quite amazing.
Well, that could be a simple choice. Continue to go shopping once a week instead of driving for one pack of toilet paper and tomorrow for a kilo of carrots or whatever.
Yeah.
Over a year, how many kilometers are that? And I wonder, for me, how long will it last?
I've
And
noticed.
it's a choice. Interesting. Am I willing to consciously choose the actions that would lead up to the things I would like to see in the world, like clean air and clean food?
Yeah.
Honestly, my yes is not total and fully at this moment. I'm such a bad girl.
But it's really important to be honest about that and to dig into that. Because it's also not about your choices that you can currently make within the way society is set up, but how do we move society to so that you do have 100% yes in that. It's because it's not solely your fault that you're not wanting to say yes. We have a society, the way our society is set up, the way our towns are set up, the way everything, all of our systems are set up, they're not set up for you to be able to say yes to that without imposing restriction or lack or loss upon you, and someone else is reaping all the gain and all the benefit. It's really about the inequitable systems that are set up to, God, the words that came to my mouth then I'm not saying, but to draw the resources from the earth for the benefit of the few. And how do we work to shift that balance so that the systems that we have got are self-sustaining? The systems that we have in place promote a healthy earth. They promote healthy people. They promote equity amongst people, and not ask individuals to beat themselves up for not choosing something when it's the system that's broken, not their personal choice.
And by changing my personal choices, well, if it's just me, I won't change a system.
No, you just rob your energy.
Or maybe. And by making my choices and being honest about this is where I'm at, I'm preaching health and I still smoke. And this is me today where I'm at with all my funny, crazy imagination and thoughts and wishes and dreams and bigger and smaller mistakes. And I would like to have this other world, and I am aware that the choices I make today for me now, if I don't, the systems will never change. If I do create different choices and talk about it, hopefully it's contagious.
Mm. That sounds like a nice spot to say good night, good day.
Yep. Thank you very
Throughout
much.
the world with a big kiss.
Again, a lot of fun, a lot of food for thought and weirdness.
That's good. Very good.
Happy greetings from Netherlands.
Yeah, so lovely to chat. So lovely
Yep.
to chat.
Already looking forward to the next time.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
I'm outside. Love you guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey.